A lot of times Donald Trump will say things like, when asked, how are you going to build a wall? Or how are you going to get Mexico to pay for this? Or how are you going to create jobs? A lot of times Donald Trump would just say something like, I just am. I'm just going to do it. And they ask, well, how? It's like, it'll get done. You'll see. And I think a lot of people don't understand that some of the wealthiest people, the movers and shakers in our society, they live by a different set of rules that have allowed them to achieve the success and influence. And it's funny because when people who go through the mainstream school system, which is supposedly designed to prepare you to be successful, the mainstream school system doesn't teach you the qualities that billionaires live by. The things that made billionaires billionaires, the things that made famous musicians and actors, they didn't use what they learned in school, what most of us learn in school. They live by a completely different set of principles and standards. In school, you're taught obey, do what you're told, be like everybody else, conform, wear your school uniform, complete obedience and subservience to authority. These principles are the antithesis of what make you rich and influential in society. So when Donald Trump says, I'm just going to do it, people don't grasp that because it's so contrary to their brainwashing of do what you're told and wait for somebody else to do it. The truth is that confidence and a sense of self-certainty are probably one of the most important principles in all of life, in accomplishing anything, whether it's making a ton of money or even being incredibly smart and coming up with a new intellectual paradigm shift. To think about it, Galileo, when he posited that the Earth was not the center of the universe, if he didn't have self-certainty and self-confidence, how could he have put forward his theory in the face of the church's opposition? Okay? How could he have put forward his theory in the face of the church's opposition if he was going to get persecuted just for having a different opinion? So it's not enough to just be smart. You have to be confident and ballsy and courageous enough to fight for what people are going to naturally oppose. And of course, when it comes to building wealth, you also have to have self-certainty and courage. A lot of times it's that consciousness power. It's who's the most certain in reality, certain in what they plan to do with their lives. They're the ones who get the success because a lot of times it just comes down to who's the most certain person. So I think a lot of people don't get that about Donald Trump. And, you know, if you read the book, one of the most famous self-help books called Think and Grow Rich, the author interviewed some of the most influential and successful people throughout the 20th century. And he came to the conclusion that a lot of times the qualities in these people that made them so successful were things that were very ethereal and abstract. A lot of times it was just about persistence. A lot of times it was just about confidence and belief in your project. And so a lot of times the thing that gives a person the success, the things that they want to accomplish in life, is not the kind of stuff that the average person is fed through the mainstream school system and in mainstream culture and upbringing. So when Donald Trump says shit like, I'm just going to do it, he's referring to these principles that aren't taught in mainstream schools.